Tonight, the race to protect Gaza's children from polio. We meet the baby partially paralyzed, Gaza's first case in a quarter century.
Polio does not respect borders.
The scramble to vaccinate in the middle of a war zone. Israeli forces rescue a hostage held in Gaza for 10 months, how he was finally freed, and the mounting pressure to get the rest home. An Oasis reunion 15 years after a bitter breakup.
They were constantly bickering on stage. They would just sort of bash each other.
Why they're headed back on stage, and can the reconciliation last the tour?
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hennemanson.
We begin tonight with the story of a young boy in Gaza stricken with polio. A dangerous disease once nearly eradicated is back and likely spreading as health officials desperately try to contain it. 11-month-old Abdul Rahman is Gaza's first confirmed polio case in decades. Children are especially vulnerable to this virus, which can cause life-threatening paralysis. The war zone conditions now perfect for its spread, while the daily onslaught of Israeli airstrikes hamper efforts to vaccinate more than 500,000 children. A local camera operator working for CBC News inside Gaza met with Abdul Rahman and his parents. Chris Brown shows us their story and why it has global health officials deeply concerned.
Polio is stalking Gaza's children. An 11-month-old Abdul Rahman Abu al-Jadyan is its first confirmed case. It's affected his limbs, said his mother, Naveen. He doesn't lift his arms properly, his neck is weak, and his legs don't hold up. He can't stand. She has 8 other children, and living in a crowded tent with such an incredibly contagious disease, she fears his siblings may get sick too. He used to crawl on sand, he walked in dirty places, and he drank water. We didn't know where it was coming from, said his mother. Polio was eradicated from Palestinian territories 25 years ago, but after months of Israeli bombings, much of Gaza's water and sanitation systems have been destroyed. Constant displacement orders have also left families struggling to find toilets and to stay clean. This week, enough polio vaccine for 640,000 children under 10 years old made it through checkpoints and into Gaza. UN agencies say within days, workers will try to implement a mass vaccination program amid deplorable conditions.
We need around 95% of children to be covered in 2 courses of the vaccine for it to be effective and for it to be a success.
With the war uprooting humanitarian workers too, the fear is if the vaccination program can't stop polio in Gaza, the disease could spread to Israel and beyond.
Polio does not respect borders, and it really can, as a quite contagious virus, spread to communities that have lower immunization rates.
Gaza's children are already enduring malnutrition and other ailments such as skin diseases, diarrhea, and hepatitis. And now Abdul Rahman's mother says the family has to suffer with the stigma that polio brings. The neighbors are scared to come to hold Abdul, to be near him, to mingle with our kids. Even I, as his mother, was scared to hold him at first. Abdul Rahman's outlook is uncertain. Sometimes the paralysis is permanent, other times not. His family hopes he might be allowed to leave Gaza for treatment.
Chris, so many challenges here, including trying to administer the polio vaccine in an active war zone.
Well, indeed, and the fear is they're running out of time to do it. The disease was detected in Gaza's wastewater last month, and the UN worries they could soon have an outbreak on their hands. But that's going to require a week of vaccinations, meaning workers going out to families or families coming into a hospital or a clinic, then a 1-month break followed by another week of vaccine shots. So if the gap is too long or that second dose maybe doesn't happen, then the whole program's not going to be effective. So healthcare agencies say that means stability and a ceasefire are likely going to be essential for this to really work. Ian.
Chris Brown reporting from London. Israeli forces have managed to rescue another Hamas-held hostage alive. Katie Simpson shows us the emotional reunion and the 52-year-old's message to the Israeli Prime Minister.
The footage is grainy from the Israeli military, showing a helicopter landing in Gaza the moment they say the hostages' journey home began. Cade Farhan Al-Kadi, the man in the sunglasses and green shirt, was found inside an underground tunnel by Israeli soldiers reportedly looking for Hamas fighters. He slowly made his way into the chopper, giving troops a thumbs up as he was flown to an Israeli hospital. His anxious family running to meet him. A reunion 326 days in the making. We are happy, all the world is happy, thank God, says his brother. Al-Kadi was abducted by Hamas while working as a security guard at a kibbutz. The 52-year-old father told friends he rarely saw sunlight and lost a significant amount of weight. Despite that, he's expected to recover.
He appears to be in general good condition, but will require another day or two of medical tests to make sure he is still okay.
Al-Kadi thanked Israel's prime minister in a phone call from his hospital bed, reminding Benjamin Netanyahu there is much work to be done. There are still people waiting, he says. Netanyahu tried to offer a message of reassurance. I want you to know that we do not forget anyone, he says, just as we did not forget you. More than 100 hostages remain in Gaza. At least 30 are believed to be dead, nearly 11 months after the October 7th attack.
Rescuing all of them is going to be quite difficult. So obviously the best way forward to release the hostages is through some type of deal.
But high-level negotiations have so far failed to secure a new deal for a release of hostages and a ceasefire. Talks are expected to resume this week. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
U.S. Special Counsel Jack Smith has filed a new revised indictment against Donald Trump for his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Smith's earlier election subversion case was on shaky ground after the U.S. Supreme Court granted the president broad immunity for acts committed in office. This new indictment strips out allegations related to Trump's use of the Justice Department to undermine the election results. The upcoming election in the U.S. and Canada's relationship with the next administration were top of mind today as the federal Liberals wrapped up their cabinet retreat. Ashley Burke with how one former ambassador to the U.S. is urging them to act.
As the Liberal cabinet retreat wrapped up in Halifax, the Prime Minister confronted by pro-Palestinian protesters and Teamsters union members, a sign of the challenges ahead. As the party aims to win back public support in Canada, they're also bracing for a change in government in the U.S.
Our American friends understand we're moving from being nice to being strategic.
They're promoting Canada's interests by crisscrossing the states ahead of November's election. In this crowd, Canada's ambassador to the U.S., who went to both the Republican and Democratic conventions this summer, preparing for either a Harris or Trump administration next year.
I don't think we have any reason to be concerned to be frank, either administration. I think that candidate Trump has some thoughts on global tariffs, which could be complicated for Canada, but I also think that the application of those to Canada will be very difficult for the United States.
I think we've got to do more.
This former ambassador during the Trump presidency says in a phase of American protectionism, Canada needs to take more risks to help the White House solve its problems if it wants more in return.
I think we've got to talk to the Americans about what it is that we can do to take stuff off their plate rather than simply piling more demands.
But at home, the Liberals are trying to turn the page on a year of bad polling.
We need to show Canadians what's next.
Still, say ministers, they're ready to run on the record.
People want people who fight for them. They want people who deliver for them. And they want to see people who take action for them.
And Ashley, the Liberals are about to face some significant tests.
Yeah, Ian, there are 2 by-elections in mid-September, and one of those is in a Montreal riding the Liberals have held since it was created in 2015, and that could be critical. After they lost another Liberal stronghold, Toronto-St. Paul's, members within their own caucus called for big changes, including one Liberal MP who isn't running again, sending an email to caucus saying that Trudeau should step down. But cabinet ministers have been standing behind him.
Ashley Burke reporting from Halifax tonight. China says it will do what it needs to do to protect the interests of Chinese companies after Canada announced it will impose a new 100% tariff on the import of Chinese-made electric vehicles.
China urges Canada to respect facts, abide by WTO rules, immediately correct its wrongdoings, and not to politicize trade issues.
Beijing is accusing Canada of protectionism. Canada argues China's EVs are cheaper in part because of lower labor standards. In the U.S., a person has died after contracting a rare mosquito-borne virus. Health officials in New Hampshire say an adult was hospitalized with severe symptoms linked to eastern equine encephalitis. Multiple U.S. states are warning of an increased risk this year. In Massachusetts, some towns have closed parks from dusk to dawn to try to keep people safe. New COVID vaccines are expected to start rolling out in the U.S. within weeks after a wave of summer infections. But what about here in Canada? Lauren Pelly now with the latest guidance on who should get the shot and when.
From Olympic athletes to average Canadians, plenty of people have been struck by COVID this summer.
If the science center is closed, where is...
Toronto artist Leela Hewack doesn't want to be one of them.
I'm a person who wants to be vaccinated and protected against COVID at all times.
She's hoping to get another dose as soon as possible and doesn't want to pass an infection on to her aging parents.
I don't feel good about waiting.
Health Canada told CBC News it's still reviewing new vaccines from several drug makers. We are aiming to complete the review process by early autumn, a spokesperson said.
The most common question by far and away is, should I get my COVID vaccine now?
This Toronto doctor is encouraging her patients to wait for those updated shots.
Wait for that better matched vaccine, because chances are it's going to reduce hospitalization.
American regulators already approved new COVID shots for the fall from both Pfizer and Moderna. They target one of the latest subvariants circulating this year.
Even though the vaccines may not be perfectly matched to the variants that are circulation, for high-risk people, it still probably makes sense to get vaccinated.
COVID, it continues to be a more dangerous virus than flu.
And it's evolving faster than flu too, U.S. health officials said last week.
But we have some underlying protection because of prior infection, because of past immunizations. And so the severity of illness has decreased.
Still, many experts recommend getting another dose this fall if it's been more than 6 months since your last infection or vaccine.
All the data we've ever had for COVID shows that time since last vaccination is the most important thing in predicting if someone's going to get seriously ill or not.
Certain groups also remain at a higher risk of severe disease, including people who are immunocompromised, pregnant, or dealing with underlying health conditions, and any older adults age 60 and up. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Students across the country are heading back to school, and this year, many will be met with tighter restrictions on cell phone use. But as Susanna De Silva explains, not everyone is on side.
There's a lot for parents to think about at the start of a new school year. Daniel Penn is glad he has one less this year.
I was very relieved about the fact that this is just something I wasn't going to long-term have to worry about.
His oldest is going to grade 1, and starting next week, cell phones are banned from the classroom.
So if you want to remove your kid from social media and cell phone, but everyone else has it, that also can be very alienating and problematic.
BC is one of 8 provinces that will have new or more strict cell phone restrictions this school year. Quebec brought in new rules in January, leaving just Newfoundland and Labrador.
The bottom line is that the phones are not going to be out in the classroom. They're not going to be out in the hallways. They're not going to be out in the schoolyards. It's a bell-to-bell restriction on cell phones.
But in BC and most provinces, the details of the ban vary between school boards. In Alberta, boards have until January to come up with a policy, but teachers are already worried about a lack of clear guidelines.
There's concerns about, well, if I have to confiscate a phone, if a student won't get off the phone, then what kind of supports and backup are there for me as a teacher?
Provinces say they're trying to reduce distractions, encourage social interaction, and protect kids from bullying and online predators.
In schools that ban phones, academic achievement tends to improve and things like bullying tend to decrease. But I will say that the effects are sort of different depending on the jurisdiction and depending on the group of students that you're talking about.
I probably address cell phones at least 10 times a day.
This Ottawa teacher says some of those interactions have gone badly, including having her nose broken by a student. And a lot of the onus is put on the teacher.
It has to be systemic. It has to be supported by our administration. It has to be supported by the families. It has to be a group decision.
And if it isn't, she says, any policy won't work. Susanna Da Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
An urgent warning for Calgary residents tonight. Cut back on water use as more water main repairs get underway.
Let me be very clear. If we do not stick to water reductions, we will run out of water. That's a fact.
Despite new restrictions imposed yesterday, the city says residents are still using too much water. People are being asked to keep showers short and flush toilets less often. The restrictions are expected to be in place for weeks for repair work stemming from that major water main break back in June. Insurance claims for the hailstorm that pummeled Calgary earlier this month are still being processed, and it could end up costing more than $1 billion. Hailstones damaged cars, homes, airplanes. But high in the clouds, there's an effort underway to reduce future destruction. Erin Collins shows us how it works.
Look at the size. It's an all too common sight and sound in southern Alberta. This storm in Calgary earlier this month produced hail the size of softballs, leaving hundreds of millions of dollars in damage in its wake.
So we had 2 vehicles parked outside. Both had major hail damage.
A familiar story in one of the worst areas for hail on the planet. For nearly 3 decades, an air war has been waged to limit that damage. Planes shooting flares loaded with silver iodide into storm clouds.
We have the ejectable flares down here, kind of by your knee.
Seeding clouds to reduce the size of the hail they produce.
Every millimeter of hail adds a lot of kinetic energy into the impact. So if we can disperse that across a bunch of smaller stones, we can reduce the damage.
The Alberta Hail Suppression Project costs more than $7 million a year, a tab picked up by a consortium of insurance companies.
We have strong reason to believe that it does effectively mitigate and reduce the damage that these storms cause.
Long before the hail hammered down earlier this month, the storm was tracked.
How big was the hail that was generated by this?
The hail was very large. This was a very large supercell thunderstorm as it moved southeast across northern Calgary.
This meteorologist says cloud seeding helped limit the size of that hail, something that could be even more important moving forward.
The trend that we have observed has been for fewer days with hail, but the days that we have had hail have been more impactful. More severe days, but fewer overall days with any hail.
More intense storms causing more damage on the ground, making the mission to seed the clouds above even more critical. Erin Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Team Canada has announced its flag bearers for tomorrow's opening ceremony of the Paralympic Games. Wheelchair basketball player Patrick Anderson and para-swimmer Katarina Roxon will share the honor, leading the 126-member Canadian team in Paris.
I'm very proud. I told the guys after practice today, and some of them may be a guest already, but that was a moment for us, wheelchair basketball program.
It's truly always an honor to get to represent the Maple Leaf.
CBC will have live coverage of tomorrow's opening ceremony, hosted by Scott Russell, starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. You can watch it on CBC TV, CBC News Network, or CBC Gem. You may have noticed that most trips to the grocery store require you to do some of the work.
Did you guys pack your own groceries today?
Yes, we did. That's the norm now.
What's behind the changing checkout trend? Next. Plus, the brothers are back together again. Oasis reunites for a comeback tour. And later, a first day on the job that didn't go according to plan.
Lucy showed just how excited she was and took off all over the field.
The bat dog who left her mark with fans. We're back in 2. A close call for a driver in the BC interior. Security camera footage capturing the moment a heavy windstorm brought down a tree right across the driveway just seconds after the vehicle pulled into the garage. A lot has changed at supermarkets across the country, including who bags the groceries. So why is it falling on customers in many stores? Sophia Harris went shopping for the answer.
Cashiers at this small grocery chain do the bagging, even when customers bring their own bags.
We're a very traditional grocery store. We scan everything for the customer, we bag it, we take it out to their car.
But at many grocery stores, there now appears to be an expectation customers bag their own goods, even in the cashier lane.
Did you guys pack your own groceries today?
Yes, we did. That's the norm now.
It became the norm over the past several years, following government regulations banning plastic bags, prompting shoppers to bring their own.
So once we have our own bags, I think the idea is just to pack it ourselves.
But some shoppers aren't happy with the shift. There are dozens of complaints on social media questioning why cashiers at major grocery stores like Loblaws, Sobeys, and Walmart aren't automatically packing customers' goods.
They just expect you to do it.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's ridiculous. Like, what am I getting 5% off? Am I getting anything?
Sophia Berdusis worked as a Loblaws cashier during the plastic bag era, so she bagged everyone's groceries.
It used to be part of the grocery experience, and now I feel like it's just one more thing that they're taking away. You know, they're raising prices, we're getting less.
Sobeys told CBC News its bagging services depend on the store, region, and staffing. Walmart and Loblaws say their cashiers are happy to help with the bagging. But some experts say cashier lineups do move faster when customers do their own bagging, which means grocers can hire less staff.
I think we're being trained not to expect bagging, and we've sort of fallen into that trap. Largely, I think this is a labor-based initiative. The real incentive is to get you through as quickly as possible so that we can serve the next customer.
So if you want your groceries bagged, choose a store that automatically offers it, or buck the trend by asking for help. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
For the first time in 15 years, a legendary band will take to the stage again.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you.
What's behind the Oasis reunion? Plus, we aren't in a recession, but for some, it sure feels like it.
Households really are stretched, and they're having to make some pretty tough choices.
Andrew Chang breaks down the fiscal disconnect. And growing up black in Canada.
I have a lot of friends and even family members that you could say were impeded by education.
An educator shares his experiences and how it shaped who he is today. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. One of the most popular Brit-pop bands is finally getting back together. Oasis today confirming a reunion tour next summer, more than 15 years after their split. The band says they expect this to be one of the hottest tickets of the decade. But as Eli Glasner reports, with their turbulent history, some doubt it will go according to plan.
At the height of their fame, Oasis could swamp a stadium with pure yearning and emotion. But the heart of Oasis was rock and roll rancor, the famously feuding brothers Liam and Noel Gallagher.
It was huge. They were constantly bickering on stage. In the media especially, they would just sort of bash each other.
During one recording session, things even got physical.
Oh, and then we smashed the gaff up. It was a proper fight. It was a proper brawl. It was cricket bats and air rifles. Dustbins.
After a Paris show in 2009, Noel said he'd had enough and quit. Now, after a 15-year hiatus, they're coming back, announcing the new tour by posting, "The guns have fallen silent. The stars have aligned. With 14 shows in the UK and Ireland, reaction was swift.
They ran out of money.
Me and my dad are very happy and we want to get tickets if they're doing shows.
I'd like to think it's because of the music, but possibly there's financial reasons as well.
In a 2017 video, Liam was quite frank about his finances, explaining how he'd been reduced to making his own tea.
Now you got to do it yourself these days, you know what I mean? Because these smart asses download tunes for niche.
Someday you will find me.
The tour is estimated to rake in the equivalent of $700 million Canadian. But with bookies already taking bets on whether the brothers finish the tour, some are wary.
I mean, if there's ever a show to buy insurance for, this is probably it.
But I really think that this time they are going to make it. I mean, there's nostalgia, but I think this is more than nostalgia. This is like a new band going out there to show the young guys how it's done.
Just what fans have been waiting for. Definitely. Maybe. Eli Glassner, CBC News, Toronto.
Now let's break down the news shaping our world. The annual return to school, for some an unsettling time, confronted by systemic racism that can impede success.
I could have been pushed into science or academics.
Navigating race, identity, and belonging in the classroom. But first,
there is no more cost of living. There is only cost of surviving.
A country mired in sky-high inflation, rising unemployment, and less consumer spending. To many Canadians, this feels like a recession. But it's not. As a matter of fact, Canada's economy is growing. Andrew Chang, host of About That, explains the disconnect and what may be behind it all.
Canada is not in a recession right now, but a new consumer survey found that almost 2/3 of Canadians believe the country is currently in one, or will be, before the end of the year.
It feels like we've been in a recession for a few years already.
You go to school, you get a degree, and you're still not guaranteed a job.
The cost of living in Canada is sick. There is no more cost of living. There is only cost of surviving.
And we know what recessions look and feel like, right? One, there's less. People cut back on spending. Money's tighter. Two, businesses struggle because of that drop in spending. You often see bankruptcies go up. And three, unemployment rises. Companies hire less or lay off their staff. And it's harder to find a job if you're looking. All of those things are true right now in 2024. Except, again, we're not in a recession, and we haven't been for years.
We have a lot of clients meet us and ask us, are we going into a recession? Are we in a recession right now? Because it sure feels like we're in one.
Some economists, like Carrie Freestone, argue that there's something unusual going on here, making it seem like Canada is doing better than Canadians feel like we are, which allows us to escape that dreaded R word, recession, even when all the signs pointing to one are there. Let me explain. Let's start with all the recession-like symptoms that we're experiencing right now. First, unemployment. It's not Canada's unemployment rate in and of itself that's worrying economists. It's by how much and how quickly that rate has gone up.
So now we're in a situation, the unemployment rate sitting at 6.4%. That's not that high. The context here, though, is that it's coming off of a really, really low base.
Coming out of the pandemic, it seemed like businesses were hiring left, right, and center. And by mid-2022, Canada's unemployment rate hit its lowest point in almost 50 years. Employees had all the leverage. And you remember in Canada and the US, the so-called Great Resignation.
Thousands of people switching their jobs, careers, or even retiring.
What we're experiencing is a massive correction in the labor market.
Things have changed a lot since then. Here's a graph from the Bank of Canada's July policy report showing a significant drop in what they call the job finding rate, which is essentially how many unemployed people find jobs from one month to the next.
New people coming into this country, graduates from high school and college and university, are not finding it easy at all to find work.
And the overall unemployment rate has shot up too, about 1.6% since 2022, which, I get it, doesn't sound like a huge number, but in unemployment terms, that's hundreds of thousands of people newly out of work.
A 1.6 percentage point increase is actually consistent with what we've seen in prior recessions. So we've never really had the unemployment rate rise that much and not see a recession.
There are other signs that businesses are tightening their belts too. Investment in many sectors has slowed, and a growing number of businesses are hitting rock bottom altogether. In fact, we haven't seen corporate bankruptcy numbers this high since the recession in 2008.
We lost a lot of jobs in IT, so they are migrating some other parts of the world, mostly down south.
Especially, I think, retail. A lot of my friends, they are really going through a hard time. We saw a lot of stores actually close down.
So right now, capital investment is relatively weak. We've also actually seen an uptick in business insolvencies, and that is, something that we typically see in recessions.
But let's set jobs aside for a moment and consider how much money we all have to spend. Not enough, right? Retail numbers tell us a lot. And here's what retail sales have looked like per capita over the past couple of years. We've all had to be more budget conscious lately.
Households really are stretched, and they're having to make some pretty tough choices.
Typically, when we feel this way, we're in a recession.
And yet, the actual output of the Canadian economy, the GDP, it hasn't tanked. It's been pretty flat, which doesn't meet the definition of a recession. Generally, for actual recession alarm bells to go off, we'd have to see GDP growth shrink for 2 back-to-back quarters. We've come close. If you look at the latter half of 2023 here, we saw one negative quarter followed by a quarter with exactly 0 growth. That's as close as it gets, right? But so far, we haven't seen 2 negatives in a row, meaning most economists wouldn't call this a recession.
So many people ask us, we're being told the Bank of Canada was able to drastically raise interest rates and we haven't had it result in a recession. They did a great job. That's what everyone's saying. But then at the same time, it's like, if we're not in a recession, why does it feel like things are so tough right now?
We can start to unlock this mystery by showing you some of the magic that happens under the hood when all of these very smart people calculate the country's GDP. A big part of that involves looking at how much Canadians spend. And we said Canadians individually are spending less. So you'd expect the GDP to shrink. But here's something strange. Total retail spending has actually been rising since 2022, while the per capita spending has been dropping. Think about that for a second. How can these two things be true at the same time? Well, here's what Canada's population growth has looked like. Notice the spike starting around the middle of 2022. According to Statistics Canada, more than 95% of that growth was from immigration.
In absolute terms, we've added 1.3 million people to the population over the last 12 months. That's something Canada has never done.
Immigration means we're adding way more consumers into the economy. Those people are all spending, so consumption is going to be higher.
More people means more spending overall, even if every individual is spending less. You can think of it like a lemonade stand in a park. If customers are feeling strapped and they start cutting back their lemonade budget, over time, that stand loses money, right? Maybe they hire fewer people, they cut down on hours. It starts to feel almost recessionary, except a whole bunch of new lemonade drinkers arrive and they've brought money. They are what keeps businesses afloat. Without them, things would get really bad. So they are welcomed. Money keeps changing hands. And even if people on average are drinking less lemonade than they used to, having more lemonade drinkers more than makes up for that.
So if it really hadn't been for this strong immigration, we would, without a doubt, be in a recession right now.
In 2023, Canada had the third highest GDP growth in the G7. If you look at the growth of GDP per capita, Canada is dead last. But here's the thing. Adding more people changes the system. Because as the demand increases, prices go up. That's inflation, and that squeezes everyone. Again, there's more lemonade being sold, but everyone's drinking less. According to the experts we spoke to, that's part of what's happened here, especially when it comes to housing. Canada was already dealing with a housing supply problem. So when the population grew by so much so quickly, the cost of housing became even more inflated than it already was, which we know is part of why the Bank of Canada kept interest rates so high for so long.
On the one hand, you do have high numbers of newcomers contributing to economic growth. But on the other hand, the demand from newcomers is inflationary, and that makes it harder for the Bank of Canada to cut interest rates to help with the housing crisis.
So we're in this situation where the cost of living has skyrocketed. Consumers are strapped. Unemployment is rising. And yet, we're not technically in a recession because the GDP is holding steady. So what do we call this pickle we're in? Well, there's no official name for it, but the unofficial term that's been swirling around more and more lately is that we're in a per capita recession.
I think people are struggling to find a definition to describe the current circumstances because they are so unusual. So this is a new term, per capita recession, that's entered into our lexicon that just basically says, okay, even though top line GDP is increasing, which you don't have in a recession, they're saying that at the individual level, it's decreasing, which is aligned with a recession.
Now, here's the good news. The Bank of Canada knows all of this is going on too, that on a per capita basis, individuals are struggling, whether or not we're in a recession. According to the governor of the Bank of Canada, unemployment and the need for growth played directly into their decision to cut rates again in July. And every economist we've spoken to over the past month has agreed they expect the cuts to keep coming. The question is, will that be enough to lift us out of this situation, whatever you want to call it?
Coming up, an educator turns his experiences growing up into a best-selling book.
I started to reflect on my own experiences as a black male and my experiences as they related to schooling.
His story and his message to a new generation. Next on The Breakdown. Millions of Canadian students prepare to return to school. But for some young black males, finding their footing in the classroom can be a challenge.
I was pushed into athletics simply because I won a race at recess or something like that.
Many Canadian educators and policymakers are trying to make it better, changing their approach to set up all students for success. But the challenges remain.
I have a lot of friends and even family members that you could say were impeded by education.
Matthew R. Morris is one of those change makers. He turned his experiences as a black student and teacher into a best-selling memoir. Earlier this year, he spoke to Deanna Sumanag-Johnson about navigating the education system from both sides of the classroom.
It is important to be yourself. That is true transcendence of education. Just being comfortable enough to show up in the classroom.
When Matthew Morris tells these aspiring teachers at Brock University to bring their whole selves to the classroom, he means it. This Toronto middle school teacher has positioned himself as an important voice on how the education system treats black boys and young men, first with a TED Talk called The Fresh Prince Syndrome.
Will represented that quintessential young urban black male. And we could come up with a dozen more character traits about Will in The Fresh Prince. But not one of them would embody what we idealize as the universal student. The Fresh Prince Syndrome is a benevolent ailment that plagues urban black males.
And now, a book, a memoir called Black Boys Like Me. It caught the eye of a major publisher and, shortly after its release, cracked into the top 10 bestsellers lists of nonfiction, a spot usually reserved for celebrity bios. Not a common fate for a memoir by a middle school teacher.
I started to reflect on my own experiences as a black male and my experiences as they related to schooling. And as I write about in the book, I have a lot of friends and even family members that you could say were impeded by education and were impeded by school.
Morris grew up in Scarborough, a son of a white mother and a black father, in a household sometimes short on money, but never on love. A strong student and athlete, he eventually played U.S. college football on a scholarship while he completed his undergraduate studies. Still, even as he thought of himself as Superman, he says he received messages in school that tried to limit what he should strive for.
When I was in elementary school very early, I was pushed into athletics simply because I won a race at recess or something like that, when I could have been pushed into science or academics because, to be quite honest, education and schooling at that time wasn't necessarily difficult for me, and I got decent grades.
There were also not so subtle messages, like being stopped by the police just because of his arm tattoos, or the fact he was a young black man driving an expensive car.
Were those things that you went through as a young man, did they play into your decision to not become an athlete or a business person or a lawyer, but to be a teacher?
Yeah, they did. You know, I wanted to be able to come back to a community where I was born and raised in, and on a one-to-one level, show young black males that you can exist in a way where you feel comfortable, and a way that is still stitched to your community and your aesthetic, but you can also do well in school.
And that's the thing he always did, was went the extra mile.
Matthew Morris's former student Nathan Barnaby graduated high school and wants to go to college to study carpentry.
It was very cool to see a teacher with so many tattoos. He had a very nice fashion sense, which I was drawn to.
That initial connection built a deeper one when Nathan started not paying attention in class.
He understands the distractions, he understands the things that would hold you back. So when he comes to me, he just talks to me like, oh, I want to see you to your fullest potential.
It goes to show how far he's come in such a short period of time.
Another former student, Sean Morgan, is about to become a Toronto police officer.
I think seeing him in a role such as teaching, it kind of pushed me to be into a role of policing, because I want people to feel represented when they see me on the force.
So are things any different for black boys and young men than they were when Matthew Morris was growing up? Recent years led to major conversations about race in education. Ontario just became the first province to make Black history mandatory in middle and high school. Streaming has been abandoned in many provinces because it was found to disproportionately steer black students away from higher education.
We are at the starting block, so to speak, a moving starting block where conversations are happening and actionable items are starting to occur. We're not getting into the nitty-gritty aspects of what are the true problematic issues around equity and around race and around racism. So it's gotten better. It's better now than it was when I first started teaching over a decade ago. I think that the idea of starting with conversations is important. I just think that we also need to be cognizant of who we bring to the table when we are having these conversations.
Until then, he'll be speaking to young people, encouraging them to be neither Fresh Prince nor Carlton Banks, but something much fresher than that, themselves. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Morris's memoir, Black Boys Like Me, made it onto the long list of this year's Toronto Book Awards. The winner will be announced at a ceremony in November. Up next, a baseball bat dog gets the zoomies.
Lucy showed just how excited she was and took off all over the field.
The chaotic canine in our moment. That's Lucy May, a 10-month-old yellow lab, which became the newest minor league bat dog for Florida's Clearwater Threshers. After her sister retired, she stepped up to the plate with unexpected results. Tonight, Lucy May's memorable debut makes our moment.
We brought Lucy down into the dugout, and we knew automatically that she was not fully prepared. The goal was to let her go out and try and get one bat, and we figured that it'd be pretty easy. Lucy showed just how excited she was and took off all over the field, into the visitors' dugout, back on the field, and then apparently had to do a little number two. So she went over on our infield grass and gave us a little fertilizer, I guess you could say. When she stopped and did her business, the first thought that came to my mind was, am I going to get in trouble for this? Some players kind of ran away from her that I think may have been afraid of dogs. Others, kind of reached out to pet her. At the end of the day, everyone laughed and thought it was just comedic gold.
And really, as imperfect as that debut was, if you know anything about minor league baseball, the notoriety from that moment is just all good. Obviously, something the team would embrace. Here in Vancouver, the Canadians, the minor league team, has the sushi race, one of the most exciting things about games here. For all of us here at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Ian Hannamansing in Vancouver. See you tomorrow night.